Hello and welcome to the summer interview series. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dan Felton-Petry, and I'm super excited because he has made such an impact on my life over the years. We got to meet in 2014 in Cleveland, and from the very first moment we met, he really challenged me in my thinking in the best possible of ways, and it's really led to my journey of personal development. So I'm excited to be the platform for Dan to share his story today. It's so powerful and really all about freedom. And it's July, it's Freedom Week, right? So Dan, if you want to give just a little intro about yourself, who are you? Where do you live? What's your favorite thing to do?
Who am I?
Who are you?
Okay, we only have a half hour, right?
Right.
I'm a part of Chelsea's upline and have the pleasure of having her as a part of my group in Shackley. And we'll talk about Shackley at some point, later on in this talk. That was the vehicle that connected the two of us, which, that was a good day.
It was a great day.
It was. I live in Virginia on top of the Blue Ridge Mountains, literally, and moved here 21 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long already. Prior to that, I lived in Chicago. During my time in Chicago, I was employed as a chief financial officer of a medical center with ancillary services as well, and did that for about 12 years before we finally managed to escape the evil big city, get out into the woods where we really belonged. What I like to do, I like to read, I play my guitar, I play volleyball. I'm sure there are other things in there too. It's hard to just bullet point a life,
Right. No, I totally understand that. So I'm not going to try to repeat exactly your title of your professional, what you did many years ago, because it seems very long. And can you water that down for us mere mortals? And explain what was it that you did and what did you love about it and not love about
it? I was the money guy for this health center. And so
I can understand that.
So what that meant was I was the one that paid the bills. I was the one who managed the cash flow. I was the one who made sure everybody got their paychecks. That was the most valuable thing to almost all of the employees, in terms of my role. I was very involved with the board of directors, with the kind of that whole behind the scenes financial piece. And I enjoyed that a lot. I would say there were really two key reasons why that was meaningful to me. The first is just that I love my coworkers. The people that worked there were by and large really quality folks. I enjoyed being with them. I enjoyed doing the work with them. Even though I wasn't a frontline person, there was still very much a team sense in all that. The second really important piece, I guess we'll call it that, is just that it was good work. We were providing services to a part of Chicagoland that was just horribly underserved. It was a couple neighborhoods, very poor parts of town. And, the people there just didn't have a lot of options. And so to be able to be a part of something that was providing quality services to people that didn't have access to those otherwise, there's great satisfaction just in being part of that. So those were the two things I liked best. What did I not like about it? I don't think about that very often. I guess I'll have to be a little careful the way I say this. I didn't like having a boss. Now, I want to be clear. I liked my boss. We were friends outside of work, did things together, when we weren't at work. So, he was a great guy and, I loved him, but he was a boss, the authority to tell me what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And he's not a micromanager, but, since leaving that world, I've learned I don't really like having a boss. I like being able to design my life the way I want it to be, aiming toward the goals that I want to achieve. And, there's just a lot more freedom, I guess we'll call it, in that. So I would say that was the biggest downer, but it wasn't a bad downer, like I said.
Sure. Okay. Well, what I heard from what you just said was really community work that matters, and freedom were some of the key priorities in your life.
Yep, I think that is absolutely accurate.
Okay. So I know you didn't love being in the city. What happened that allowed you guys to escape to your mountains? Your mountains.
Yeah, if only. My little, my little piece of
Your
the
piece of
mountain.
it.
There were a couple things. One, just a quick background. We moved to Chicago to go to grad school, and just kind of got stuck there. The plan was we would go there, get our degrees, and get out. And we went there, we got our degrees, and we didn't have money to go anywhere. We needed jobs. So we got jobs and made friends and, got involved in church and just kind of got stuck. Well, we were always going to move in about 2 years. The whole, 16 plus years that we lived in Chicago, it was always, we're moving in about 2 years. But of course, we were taking no steps to make that happen. And it kind of became a joke among our friends. And it was actually when Marjorie, my wife, for those of you who didn't know that, when Marjorie got involved with Shackley, she was doing some training and learning about these things called goals. Goals? What? You're allowed to do that? Like you're allowed to plan your life? And I can still remember very vividly, she came home from training one night. And let me say, too, that she was really the driving force in the early days of our business. I was the supportive spouse. I was, kind of going, go, and helping out where I could. But it was really the thing initially. So she came home from training one night and she looked at me, in this just really intense way, which she had a bit of intensity about her. So that wasn't hard. She looked at me and she said, if we don't know where we're going to move, we're going to grow old and die in Chicago. And, it was perhaps a bit overstated, but the point was we needed to figure out what we were going to do. And that really kicked us into what ended up being a 5-year process of first deciding what do we want in a place we're going to move. And, what do we want that to look? What do we want the geography to be like? What do we want the people to be like? What do we want the weather to be like? What do we want? Anything we could think of, and literally wrote it down, made a list of all these things. And then we set about searching the country to find that place. Now, the key piece here is the dream came first, getting a clear definition of the dream. We'll talk a little more about that. And, as we had our list, we, went around multiple places, did several trips out west looking out there, and then decided we really needed to be east of the Mississippi just because our parents were getting older and we wanted to be available for that. And, we, through the process, ended up finding, the Blue Ridge Mountains outside of Roanoke, Virginia. And Chicago was never home to us. In 16 years, it was never home. And here it's home. It was home right away. It's where we belong, where I belong. So
yeah. So now you're in Virginia, right? What was going on in your life that again caused you to switch gears, as in Georgia?
As in Georgia?
Georgia, Florida.
Oh.
With family and care. I know you had mentioned your
my brother
parents. Yeah, your brother-in-law. Yeah, because you wanted to be by family, and so what was going on at that time? When we moved here, the dominant thing that jumped in our face right away was that Marjorie's younger brother, who lived down by Atlanta, was diagnosed with leukemia. Young, healthy, no indication that anything like that was coming. And all of a sudden he's fighting for his life. And the form that he had is actually a more common childhood leukemia. And in children, it's actually one of the easier forms to get rid of. If you had a child that was going to have leukemia, that's kind of the one you would pick. Obviously it's absurd. Right. But in adults, it's really insidious, just a horrible, horrible disease. And it was really a 5-year process. He is doing well. God's hand was on him and healed him
in that process. And the kind of miraculous things that happened through that process, we could spend the rest of the time just talking about that. But he's alive and doing great. And, we were able to, being here and having our business, we were able to spend a lot of time down in Atlanta with him, helping him, caring for him, just at times when he literally, couldn't even raise his arms or raise his head. That was a profound understanding of the importance of having the kind of freedom of having our own business. We laughed. I don't know if that's quite the right thing, but we saw the delight in, knowing that if we had real jobs, we'd have been fired if we had given him the kind of time that we gave him. But, we had the freedom to do that, and that was a priority. So we moved here, and that took up, the first 5 years of our life here.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay. So when you've talked about, you've covered community, work that matters, and freedom were really big for you. What's most important about what you do on your day to day today?
What's important about, I get to interact with you, that's, and, that's only half tongue in cheek, because, I've thought about this many times, is what is it about what I do that really draws me? And the answer is there's actually quite a lot about it. But when I think about what is it that stirs my heart and, really, I wasn't anticipating this.
So sorry. I told everyone we're going to feel the feels today.
What is it that does this to me? And it's my people. It's the members of my group, and the chance to be involved in their lives, in your life, and, help them, you achieve what you want to achieve. That for me is the driving force. That is the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning, and that I look forward to through the day, is having interactions with my team. And, that's just pure gold to me. So that is priority one.
Yeah. And I'm very thankful that that's priority one for you. I have grown a lot just from your time spent with me and teaching me. So thank you for jumping out of bed every day. So rewinding a little bit, and this is up to you whether you want to dive into this or not. But you faced a very life-altering circumstance, which you had mentioned Marjorie had spent most of her time building the business while you were the supportive spouse. How did that go for you, and what has that meant for you in the long run?
Okay. I joined Marjorie full-time in the business when we moved to Virginia. And it was about a year and a half or so before that I really came to the realization that I thought Shackley was going to be my long-term future. That I was going to finish out my time in Chicago. And then when we moved, I was not going to, look for a real job
with a boss, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to join her in the business. And she was very excited about that. That was something that she had wanted for some time. She was very, she was not pushing me about that or she was very, very good about that. I knew she wanted it, but, it was my decision, very much. And so, we did that, we kind of did the figure out how we're going to do this together thing. And then she was diagnosed with cancer, and ovarian cancer, and she was way too young to be diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Fought it naturally, and her oncologist told her that she had beaten it. She understood that wasn't really true, that it was still a race, that there were still things she needed to do in her body. And it was just, can that happen before it comes back, was sort of her attitude during this time, and kept her very focused on pursuing health, pursuing wellness. And it was about 9.5 years or so after the initial diagnosis that it came back, and it just came roaring back. And when she was re-diagnosed with it in 2014, it was about 5 weeks, 6 weeks after she was re-diagnosed that she died. So it was just blazing fast.
Wow.
And just to give you an idea of how fast, 3 weeks before her diagnosis, we were hiking in the mountains of California together.
Wow.
And came home and, faced that. And so very suddenly she was gone. And that left a huge question. Well, lots of huge questions, but one big one, particularly around the business, is, and the way I've defined the question is, how do I take what for many years has been a two-person business that looked mostly like Marjorie? That is, the business was designed around her strengths, and I then fit myself in around it. But her and her strengths were still the core of the business. So how do I take that business and turn it into a one-person business that looks like me? Because I'm not her. I can't be her. I don't want to be her. If I'm going to succeed, I have to use my strengths.
Yeah.
and grow myself into what I need to be in order to have that. And so that was the big dilemma at that point. And it took almost a year, not quite a year, to come, to finally get the answer to that question. And it actually came right around the time I met you. It was just after the Cleveland conference that became clear. And I would say that my subconscious finally said, okay, here's the answer. Because I had just kind of put it, the way I word it is I put it in the cooker.
Yeah.
Let my subconscious work on it and figure out what we're going to do. And, the basic answer was that I was going to really emphasize working with my downline leaders. That was really the heart of the change. With Marjorie, it was certainly not. It's not that we weren't doing that when it was both of us, but there was much more of a customer focus. That was a lot stronger drive, and I still care for my customers and all that, but
right.
but they're now not the highest priority. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And you've kind of gone into this a little bit, but what does your life look like now with making that shift to working with your downline leaders?
What does my life look like now? My friends think I'm retired. But I think that has to do with the fact that I work at home and, I get to travel a lot, and some of that travel is for business, and, they look at it and go, oh, gee, you're always dancing all over the country. So, okay. But for me, I'd say my life looks kind of a normal day is get up, do the mundane things, check email and that, and then I end up interacting with my team throughout the day. And, I have some days that are heavier than others. I have customer care stuff that I need to do in there, and, all kinds of other things too around the business. But I also have a lot of freedom and, a lot of flexibility to do what I want to do. So a couple weeks ago, I kind of very suddenly made a trip up to Ohio, to where my family of origin is, and spent the weekend up there helping build a deck onto my mother's place, which she really needed. And, that was something that, I ended up taking off a couple days from work in order to do that. And I could do that. There's nobody I had to ask. I could just make the decision. And that is probably the thing that I like best about the business and B, being single, is that, I get to choose. Now that compared to being married to your dream woman is a poor second place, but that option's not available anymore. And so, let's take the best advantage of the situation that I can. And so I do make use of my freedom and try and live my life in a way that pushes me toward what I want. And that, that sets a great example for my downline. So yeah, some of my,
it does.
not everywhere. It's really just me trying to serve you, Elsie, and the rest of your Shackley cousins in my group. That it's just an act of self-sacrifice on my part.
Well, I appreciate it. So, because you're a numbers guy, and this is kind of off topic a little bit, but how many lives do you think you've impacted through your business?
Wow. See, that's going to beg a definition of the word impacted.
Improved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, certainly many thousands. I don't know if it's measured in tens or hundreds, but probably still tens. But, well, I don't know, a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the awesome things about this business and just the way it is structured is that, I haven't impacted that many people directly, but it's okay. I think we're contractually obligated to use the analogy of it's a stone dropped into a pond and the ripples.
The ripples, right?
But it's true, that everybody that has been touched by anybody in my organization is because of first Marjorie's and then also my participation in this business and investment in their lives, and that's awesome. I mean, to be able to impact that kind of number of people, and that's going to keep going up. I wish there were a way I could count.
Oh, I'm going to be sure of it.
Yeah, good. I believe you. I wish there were a way to kind of count that number because I'd love to know when it hits 1 million. But
that's amazing.
I don't know that. And I do expect that it will. And
yes.
if I live a normal life, that will be well within my lifetime.
Yes, it will. I believe that.
Yep.
For sure. So is there anything else that you'd like to say? Any advice you would like to give to others who maybe are thinking about moving every 2 years and maybe don't like having a boss, anything like that? People who are kind of in that situation where they're not living their best life in the way that they would like.
Well, let's go back to the having goals story. To me, that's a huge piece of living a life that's your best you, is first of all, knowing what that life is, or knowing at least what some of the components of that life are, not having just kind of some vague notion, I wish I didn't have to do this. I don't like going to work at 7 a.m. every morning. Okay, I mean, those, there are some clues there, but what is it that you really do want? What is an ideal life to you, or as close to ideal as we can get on this planet? And that process that Marjorie and I did when we started looking at, okay, where are we going to move? That became a model for a great deal of our lives. It was really in that process that we learned the power of really intentional, clear thought, and the power simply of our thinking to impact not just in the decisions that we make, but also it impacts the way the world responds to us. When we are clear and focused and headed in I'm going in this direction and I am going to get there, the universe kind of helps line those things up for us. Not that there aren't obstacles that jump in the way. There always will be. That we can get through or around them and keep going. And so I guess that would be, this is not like rocket science or anything, but I wish I had known much younger the power of what lies between our ears to really dramatically impact how our lives are lived. And I get to do that now. I get to make decisions based on, what comes clearly out of here. And so the one glaring exception, my life is what I want it to be. And I'm getting to have the kind of impact that I want to have. And I'm getting to have the community around me that I want to have. And I get to, have, interactions and relationships with people that I just adore. I want to go on the other side of the screen from me.
Well, that's great. That's amazing. I think in our world, we don't see a lot of people living out lives that they love. We see a lot of people who are just okay, frustrated that nothing changes, but nothing changes when nothing changes, right?
Yeah. Adaptation is a much more common ability than clear, focused dreaming. We learn how to adapt. We don't, in real life, learn how to dream well. And, so if there's anything that I would throw out there is learn how to dream well. Use the brain, use that thinking thing. Get rid of some of those negative things that hold us back. And we all have them. Goodness knows I still have them. And, it's just a perpetual process of sharpening, becoming clearer and clearer in how we want to live, how we want to interact, how we want to communicate, how we want to think, in order to achieve what we want to achieve and be who we want to be.
So powerful, so profound. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for meeting with me today and working through technology.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. I have been enjoying watching your interviews, and to be asked, it feels like an honor to me, actually. So,
well, it's my honor. We can argue about this later. Whose honor it is?
We're talking tomorrow. Right. We'll fight about it then.
Oh, that's right. We're meeting tomorrow, so yes, we will argue about this tomorrow. Well, thank you so much, Dan, and I hope you enjoy your mountains today and all that freedom that you've created in your life.
I certainly will.
All right. Take care, Dan. Thank you.